started anyway. Welcome everybody to our Magnification Call for and we got Big Dog up in the house, it sounds like, and excited to hear what Mr. Evans has in store for us.
Okay, let's get started. So I told you a little while ago, about 3 weeks ago, I had just this awful week where I felt like all my dreams are just being just slammed. Is that the Great Dane? Or did you bring a dog, Michael?
No, it's my shepherd. I'll mute
Oh,
myself.
it's yours, Kathy. Okay, all right, we have to mute you. Yeah, we have one of my daughter's friends was just going through divorce, and she asked if he could just stay here, and he's awesome. I didn't realize he had a Great Dane though that's the size of a pony. So, but he's a good guy. I'm glad he's here. Anyway, so about 3 weeks ago, it was just this horrible week. Everything I was trying just hit this wall. And my wife was trying to make me feel better. She goes, "Rick, you set your goals so high. It's like, and then you feel like a failure." And I said, "No, actually, I don't feel like a failure. I'm past that. I don't think I'll ever feel like a failure again in my life. I've accomplished too many big things that I care about. It's like I'm already, that's like gone. That I don't even think of that. But I do recognize that I do fail, and I fell a lot." And it was really interesting. I was meeting with the accountant this week, and the gal who does our book, she literally said this to me. She's going over some things, and it's like, I've had 3 big failures in the last 3 years. Okay, Tribe of Kings, Kingdom Organizer, in terms of growing and what I expected and hoped, and Tribe of Queens didn't go viral. And she goes, "Well, why don't you just do things that make money? Why don't you do things that work?" And I thought, this sounds so much like an accountant, because they're freaking idiots. It's just like, I can't tell you how many businesses at AsGuy, we would have accountants come in and say, "You've got to stop your advertising budget because it's taking too much money." And our client would be out of business and bankrupt within 6 weeks. It's like, they are so stupid. So I looked at it, I said, think about business is that 95% of what you do doesn't matter, but no one knows which 95% it is. And I go, let me put it this way. My billionaire friend once said to me, most of my businesses fell. Okay, this is my billionaire friend. Most of them fell. But when I get it right, I really get it right. And she just sat there, and I thought, oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding me. I said, let me remind you that the Christmas box was my 14th project, my 14th. I had 14 failures before that. But every one of those failures taught me and prepared me. So, hey, Richie.
Thank you.
Did you hear me talking about you?
Yes.
Is that okay?
I was very flattered.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah, we love you. So anyway, so what happened is we had this idea of a book that I just love, revolutionary storytelling. And I thought the perfect publisher is going to be this publisher that was going to do our Kingdom Organizer book. And they came back with an offer that was so insulting that my agent basically said, "F you." She goes, "How dare you?" She goes, "I wasn't even going to tell Rick about it." She goes, "How dare you even do that?" It was just this huge insult. And it's like, wow, what is going on? This is just horrible that everything's stopping. 2 days later, I get a phone call from my billionaire friend. Or actually, I get a text message from him. He goes, "Hey, I'd like to write that book with you." And now this guy, who's business partners with Mitt Romney, he's given me $1.5 million for my charity. I mean, this guy, money's not an issue anymore. This guy is. One time he flew me to Portugal to talk to all the top Harvard MBA graduates who were coming to work for his company, and he wanted me to teach them ethics. I mean, this is a guy, he called me once in New York and goes, "Hey, where are you?" I go, "I'm in New York." He goes, "Hey, when you go back?" I go, "Tomorrow morning." He goes, "I got my jet. Let me fly you home." I mean, that's an $80,000 flight, right? It's just like we hop in his jet and we sat there. It's like, this is crazy. So anyway, he calls me and he wants to do a book with me. Think of this. I mean, he taught at Harvard just for fun. And it's like, wow, what I thought was failure turned out to be exactly the best route for this book. And so I went back and looked at the book that we were working on a long time ago. And I found, I started to go through it. I thought, this is actually really cool. And that's what I'm going to share with you tonight. Okay, you've heard about the cancel culture, right? Okay. Back in 2008, okay, 13 years ago, I wrote about the cancel culture coming. And I talk about a growing epidemic that Americans are quitting, that they're quitting everything. So, I called it the culture of quitting, which is kind of interesting, 13 years ago. And that was costing trillions of dollars every year to the world. And that in the military is costing millions of lives. So, but on individual levels, creating unhappy and unfulfilled individuals increasingly resigned to lives of mediocrity. But there's also really good news. If we're in this realm where everyone quits, the people who don't quit, guess what? They're rock stars. In fact, it's easier to win in a sport if your competition keeps quitting, right? And so, I created this book. It was called The Blue Vaser, and working with this billionaire, we went back. We started looking at what are the 7 traits of a blue vase individual. Now, if any of you have heard the story, it's actually a story written back during the Depression. It was called The Green Vase, and it was a really fascinating story about not quitting. And rather than get into that whole story because it would take too long, it's someone who just doesn't accept no for an answer, who doesn't quit. And but let me jump into it. There are 7 traits of people who I call a blue vase. And but if to show you the difference, a blue vase individual is committed to an ideal. And so if we look at someone who's what I call the blue vasers, and I call them the clock punchers. So there are people who it's just like they go to work. I put in my time. I tried. And the result is not important to them. And the truth is, most people in the world are clock punchers. Well, I put in the effort. If it didn't work, it didn't work. Okay, and then you have people who are committed to the outcome. So which are you? Are you committed to putting in the time, or are you committed to the outcome? Years ago, I took a weight loss class, and it was interesting because I go in there and there's only like 6 people in this class. And the teacher said 2 things. Well, I said to her, I go, where's everyone? She goes, we had more than 30 people sign up. And I go, there's only 6 people here. And she goes, it happens every time. They don't really want to lose weight. They just want to ease their conscience that they're not doing anything. So they feel, and she goes, they won't even ask for their money back. It happens every time. They'll come in, they'll pay the money, and then never show up because they feel like, well, I tried and I failed. But at least I tried. And it takes the guilt away. She goes, I'm used to it because it happens on a regular basis. So I want you to think about, and this is not, you know me, this is not about shaming you, but I want to think about and what your dreams are right now. Are you a blue vaser? Are you outcome focused? Or are you a clock puncher? Okay, well, I tried. I put in the time. It doesn't matter if it didn't work out or not. And those employees that I had, clock punchers don't last very long with what I do because we're completely oriented, or we're orientation based on what we're going to accomplish. So, so here are 7 traits of a blue vase individual. First of all, I'll say them all now and then I'll go into them. Ownership of their objective. Okay. They take full ownership, full responsibility. Okay, think about that. So you think about your dream, what you're trying to accomplish. Did you take ownership of that, of what's supposed to happen? Not, I'm putting in my time and I go back and do something I want to do. It's like, did I take ownership? Second, they are task achievement focused. All right, it's like, okay, I'm going to achieve a certain task to get there. Whatever it takes to achieve that task. Third, they expect obstacles. They expect it. Fourth, they expect the wall, and I'll get into that. 5, they recognize the power of risk. 6, they have the principle, they understand and follow the principle of dependability. And 7th, and this is the hardest of all of them, they know when to quit. And this is the most difficult of all. Okay, so let's start with ownership of objective. Okay, to have an ownership of your objective, and please, I want you to think about your objective. I want you to apply what I'm talking about tonight to you. I want you to think about one thing in particular you want to do. Right now, I have 2 cool objectives that are really fun. One is our Author Ready program. It's like my objective is to turn this into a massive company. And it's growing. You know, it's growing. We're up to 337 people right now. No, 341 people right now. And we don't launch for another 2 weeks. It's like, it's growing. And I haven't pulled out the big guns yet, but it's not working yet. I don't know how I'm getting there, but I'm starting to attract things to me. In fact, last week I got contacted by a man who has 4.5 million followers on Facebook, or excuse me, on YouTube. And he goes, "Hey, what are you doing with this author thing?" I told him. He goes, "Can I go in business with you?" He's so big that Disney sponsors him. Okay, he works directly with Disney. He works directly with the CEO. And he reached out to me. It's like, this is crazy. Okay, these cool things are happening, but I put it out there in the universe, and I didn't even know who he was. In fact, the way it started was a friend of a friend, Paul Cardall, the pianist, was in his house and noticed a row of Michael Vey books. And he goes, "Do your kids like Michael Vey?" He goes, "Like, they're freaking fanatics. They're absolutely obsessed with Michael Vey." And he goes, he said, "The guy who wrote him actually helped me get my start. Would you like to meet him?" And the next thing I know, we're on the phone for 45 minutes. Okay, so let me go back to ownership of the objective, a clear vision of the desired outcome. This is actually the dreaming, and it's beautiful. I have this dream is I don't want to just have 100,000 people on Author Ready. I want to have this massive building that I can use for all sorts of cool functions. I'm seeing, what is the dream? I want to finish my ranch exactly what I want. Also probably want one in some warm climate somewhere, a second retreat. All right, so thinking about what is that dream? What does it look like? A clear vision, but the clear vision, that is like some of the fun stuff. The clear vision is people actually being helped to accomplish their goals and their dreams, to have thousands and thousands of new authors coming out and doing what they always wanted to do and experience the joy that I've experienced. Okay, second, the ability to state their goal. Now, this is really important. Do you have the ability to state your goal in concise language? Okay, as they said, Albert Einstein supposedly said, if you can't explain what you're doing to a 6-year-old, you don't understand it. Okay, you can't be vague about what your goal is. So for instance, I had a goal this week to hit 250 people on Author Ready, 250 subscriptions. Now, bear in mind, that's about $200, a commitment. So that's $50,000 of business for business that doesn't exist. Okay, how are we going to do this? We actually beat it by 100 people, almost 90 people. It's like, okay, what is my goal for next week? Okay, my goal next week is to hit 500. All right, what is that goal? Be very clear what that goal is. My goal is I wanted to have 1,000 people by the time we launch. At which point the company is already massively profitable. Okay, no, not massively. It's not in the multi-million-dollar range, but it's enough that it's worth my time. Okay, third, ownership of the objective is a personal commitment in seeing the objective reached. Okay, the other big goal we're working on is, I told you last time about my book, about my children's book. My son lives in a tree. So I put on the gold bracelet. And I don't know if you remember the gold bracelet. When I did the Christmas box, I bought gold bracelets for my team, and I gave them all gold bracelets. And I said something insane. I said, we're going to wear these bracelets If you're willing to put it on and join this team, you're making a commitment that you are going to leave this bracelet on until we have the #1 book in America. It's an insane thing to say, right? It sounds easy looking back, but Richard Paul Evans didn't exist back then. I'm just a kid. I'm just a guy who wanted to write a book. So these are how I took ownership. I had a clear vision of what I wanted. Christmas box, and this maybe is a better definition. I knew my desired outcome. I wanted to have a #1 New York Times bestseller. I didn't even know completely what that meant. I just knew it meant it was big. The ability to state in a goal in concise language. I could do that. Third, a personal commitment. I put on the gold bracelet. I'm committed. I'm going to make this happen. Okay. Now, let me give you an example. If you ask a clock puncher, well, why are you doing it? You ask about their goals and their objective. Why are you doing this? Because my boss told me to. Okay. A blue vaser, why are you doing this? Because it's the best way to achieve our important objective. Do you see the difference? All right. You're having ownership on the objective. Okay. Second trait, task achievement focused. Okay. They expect success. They broke it down. It's like, I can do this. I can. And when I talk about tasks, I'm not talking about the big goal, because big goals can take years to accomplish. Christmas box took me 3 years, right? But I had, or like Author Ready right now, I didn't say, well, I'm going to have 100,000 people next week. It's like, no, 250 people. It's a huge leap. Okay. And my goal for next Sunday night, I tell you, is 500. So you'll be able to hold me accountable. But it's like, okay, I expect to accomplish it. Okay, I rate achieving my goal as the only indicator of success. If I accomplish it, it doesn't matter. It's like, well, I tried really hard. And that's kind of the trophy society we live in. You did your best. Okay, I'm not looking to be told I'm okay, because I'm already okay. First of all, it's impossible for a human to be a failure. A failure is a situation of circumstance. Every human being is worthy of love. Every human being is valuable. Every one of them. Whether they're successful or not, they're valuable. I'm not trying to earn I'm okay. Everyone listening here tonight is far more valuable and beautiful than you can even comprehend. Okay? So it doesn't hurt me when someone tries to say, well, don't hate yourself. I don't hate myself. What I'm saying is I made a goal and I did not achieve my goal. And I get this with Carrie a lot. Rick, you set your goals too high. It's like, you feel like this failure. No, I don't feel like a failure, but I did not achieve my goal. And I respect myself enough that I'm not going to lie and try to downplay it. I made a goal, I didn't make it. And the reason I don't let it go is because the next time I make a goal, I am not going to say, but I may not make it. I want to be clear when I hit the goal. And when I hit my goal, then I can feel really happy about that. I can expect the success rather than just putting everything into this gray area. Does that make sense? Okay. I made a goal and I'm going to achieve that goal. And even if you want to make a smaller goal, fine. But just hit that goal. There have been times that it's like I made a goal, and there's times I work till 4 a.m. to hit that goal. It's like, I don't care. I made a goal. And I fear that if I let it go, it might become a habit. I don't want to be okay with not living my dreams. Okay, I don't want to be okay with that. At least if it's, at least if it's up to me. And it's not always up to me. All right, that's just, I can recognize that. So, okay, the third is the blue vaser, they expect obstacles. And there's 3 kinds of obstacles I want you to look for. There's speed bumps, there's stairs, and there's walls. And there's a difference. Okay. Now this is a speed bump quitter. So I had a friend of mine. I'll call him Steve. It's not his name, but I don't want to embarrass him. But he had just been fired. He was looking for a job, and he wanted to be my assistant. And it's like, okay, right now, why don't you step in, because I need someone to step in. We'll see how you do. And so I was running off to a meeting. I said, look, when I get back, The clients will be waiting for me that I need to meet with. I need to have these things printed off, have them printed off for everyone on our desk when I get back. Okay, here's the file. You got the file, you got it, we're fine. All right. I get back an hour and a half later, walk in, the clients are there. There's no papers. I go, where are the documents? Your printer's broken. And I couldn't get it to work. All right. Now think about this. Okay. So I finished the meeting. It did not go well. I didn't have the documents. I was severely handicapped. After I was mad. And I walked back. It's like he had an hour and a half to print off these documents. I went back and I said, okay, I needed those. I gave you, you had, you know, what they say, you had one job. You know, I gave you one job. And he goes, well, it's not my fault. It's your fault. You had a better printer. And I said, okay, this printer, I said, I went and I got a screwdriver and I came back. I took the printer apart and I fixed it. And I said, okay, let's talk about every way you could have accomplished the goal. You could have emailed it to another computer and printed it. You could have put it on a floppy disk and transferred it to another computer and printed it. You could have put it on a thumb drive and transferred it to another computer and printed it. You could have retyped the presentation from the screen. You could have asked another employee for help. You could have hired and rushed in a technician. You could have borrowed someone else's printer. You could have gone out and bought a new printer. Okay, I just threw out 7 things you could have done. The problem is, and I said, could you have come up with any of those solutions? And he said, I guess I didn't think about it. And I said, that's why you got fired. And that's why you can't have this job. Because you hit a speed bump and you said, I can't do it. Okay. In my world, okay, I can't tell my publisher, you know, the book just didn't come to me. Okay, you see that I saw it was pretty funny. It was on some it was some TV series. It's a comedy. And he goes, you know what it's like in the real world? They expect results. It's like, exactly. You can't say, you know what, I had a bad day. No, they'll fire you. It's like, no, it's like, no. Now, this is a speed bump, and this is the difference. I had a friend of mine. I love this guy. He's very, very smart. His name is Paulie. And Paulie, he went into, he does a lot of self-exploration type things. He goes to this thing, and they blindfold him for a day. They want him to see what it's like to be blind for a day. They gave him a cane. Well, during the meeting, he has to go to the bathroom. So he goes out, and he's walking over, and he hits a wall. He goes and hits another wall. He's going, it's like he can't get out of the room. And finally, the guy walks over and goes, what are you doing? I'm trying to get out of the room. Well, why don't you get out of the room then? Because there's this wall. Can't walk through walls. And he goes, why don't you see how high the wall is? And he lifts the cane up and he realizes the wall is only 2 inches high. It was actually there. It was tape that was up over to hold it. This is how most people live their lives. Okay. It's like you test it, you step over it. The other thing is that you start to realize is that there's those little speed bumps that slow us down. Well, you just step over. Second, there are blocks. There's like stairs. What I've learned throughout my life and career is that to get to where I want to be, I'm never on the right level. Okay, you have to change. And I really believe that God and the universe work together. But it's like you have to realize you can't take the same road and get to a different destination. So what happens is when you hit these bumps and it's like, oh, this isn't going to work. Okay, it's like, it's my experience with the book. I'm trying to get these guys, no, we don't want it. It's like, well, let me try this. If the Christmas box had not been self-published, the book never would have accomplished what it did. Because when I'm on People magazine, when I'm on the Today Show, all Katie Couric wanted to talk about was the book being self-published. That was what was interesting about it. A dad wrote a book for his daughters that no one wanted. It was the success story that was newsworthy. The story itself, no one cared about what the story is about. She didn't even ask. People magazine, an entire article took 1 sentence to say what the story's about. It was the story behind the story that was relevant. So so people think about, so you have those speed bumps, or you have these blocks, you hit it, it's like, wow, I can't get there. No, you can't. From where you are, step on the block. And then step on the next one. And step on the next one. And the whole way you're being made stronger and stronger and stronger. Why do the Marines put you through what they put them through? If they were to throw them in to the very last day, what they're supposed to go through, would kill all of them. No one would succeed. But they keep tearing them down over and over and over and over. And all of a sudden, it's like they're a new person. You have all been through this on some level in your life. And yeah, I know it hurts. The problem is we want to have this success. We want to have success on our terms. I want to go to the ranch, but I don't want to drive 5 hours. So I'll just drive an hour. I'm 4 hours short. All right, there's no way around that. The universe wants me to is totally good with me getting to the ranch and knows I'll find joy when I get to the ranch. But I don't get to decide how long it takes. I don't get to decide where the road goes. I have to look at where it is. And if the road's closed off, I have to find another way. I have to take a different road. And most of those times we don't succeed in spite of those challenges. We succeed because of those challenges. Okay, what it's really doing is we're being lifted up to a level that we couldn't hit otherwise. We're being strengthened in ways we wouldn't hit otherwise. Those things that we call these obstacles really are incredible blessings. You know, I've told you about the experience of, the Christmas box house. You know, it's like when they voted to shut it down. I wanted to shut it down. I didn't like what it was going through. I didn't like what I was going through. I didn't like the fear and the pain and the anxiety I felt over bankrupting myself over something that might not work. But the cause was just. There were children's lives at stake. And, you know, when I asked God if I could quit, I got a very clear answer. Sure. What I said is, if you quit, but he told me the repercussions. You can quit, but no one will ever succeed at this. What he's telling me is you're the only one who has a chance of succeeding. And it's like, okay, but he let it up to me. How grateful I am for that. I don't want to get back in line for it. I never want to go through that again, okay? I admit it. Just like ladies who have given birth to a baby, you don't want to go through that again. But you're probably pretty glad you did, right? Because those beautiful little souls, you forget about it after. So what are these people? These people who they expect obstacles. Okay, well, there's a couple things. First of all, they're constantly aware of real-time constraints. One of the ways that we sabotage ourselves is we don't give ourselves enough time, or we secretly know. I actually had a university professor who had this theory that people procrastinated so they could take the pressure off themselves to try to succeed. Well, there's no way I could have written that book in that amount of time. Yeah, but you could have if you had started when you said you were going to start, right? So they're constantly aware of time constraints. Okay, whether it's an election day. Also, my most favorite, did anyone watch Apollo 13? I love that movie. But Ed Harris, who's one of the coolest humans on the planet, basically the guy says to him, give up. Okay, accidents happen. It's like, it's not your fault. He gave him all these excuses, right? About why the ship's not coming back. You couldn't have foreseen this. It could have happened, blah, blah, blah. He goes, accidents happen. And what did Ed Harris say? It gives me chills even thinking about it. He goes, not on my watch. Oh, is that cool? I want to be that guy, not on my watch. You know, I had every reason in the world to quit with Christmas box. Every reason. I had experts in the field telling me it was impossible. People telling me, you don't know, you don't know. I was out of money. I wasn't getting support. I had every reason to quit. And you know what? I look back and something inside of me for one moment, it was great because God let me be great. And I said, you know what? Not on my watch. You know what? And when he said, you're going down with the ship, I said, no. And he goes, the ship is sinking, Rick. You don't even know it. Your ship's already sinking. You don't even know it. That's how dumb you are. And to look him in the eyes, the number one child advocate in the state of Utah, look him in the eyes and say, then I guess I'm going down on the ship. I'm proud of a few things in my life. I'm proud of some moments with my children when I was a good dad. And there's been plenty of times I wasn't, I think, but there are a few times when it's like, you know what, Rick, you got it right. You know, one time my daughter came to me and she had done something bad. And she was really upset. I looked at her. And it's like, what do I say? Do I get mad at her? I looked at her and I just started crying. I looked at her and I go, and I couldn't say anything. I just go, are you okay? And then she started crying. And the next day I got a call from her friend who said, I would give anything to have my father say what you said to me. You didn't, she goes, that was really smart. You didn't condemn her. You gave it all to her. You gave her love and you showed you hurt because of what she had chosen. And instead she's like, I let my dad down. After you left, she goes, I let my father down. I have to be better. And she rose and she became better. See, every now and then I get it right. It's like, these are the moments that we treasure. We look back on, it's like, yes. And I think God gives us those moments, but do you take them? Do you say, not on my watch? Coolest thing ever. Okay, the fourth thing, okay? They expect the wall. Does anyone here run marathons? Does anyone here run a marathon? Karen, you do? No? Are you unmuting?
Won't unmute. I ran a half marathon. I've run several half marathons.
Have you ever heard of the wall?
And the marathon?
Yeah.
Don't think I have.
Okay. When I was studying, I decided I was going to run a marathon. At the time, I couldn't run a half mile. By the time I was done, I was running.
Okay.
Okay,
I know
so
what
by
you
the
mean
time
now.
I was there, I got a book. This is before everyone started running marathons. This is like 35 years ago. And I started to run 16 miles a day. I was in pretty good shape. And I always read about the wall. And apparently they said, look, you're going to run, and then at 20 miles, you're going to hit the wall. And it's going to suck everything out of you, and you're going to think you can't do it. Okay. Before every moment of greatness, before everything I've accomplished in my life that was big, I've hit a wall. And what happens, what quitters do during those moments is, first of all, they quit, but it hurts too much to quit. So they start to recruit other people to quit with them. They become toxic. Okay. When they were trying to shut down my charity, it wasn't just one person. He went to everyone and said, we all got to get out of here. We got to leave. It bothered him that I wouldn't quit because it put a light back on him. Like, why is this guy who's putting the most out, why is he not quitting? And I'm quitting. It's like, so first of all, to expect the wall is vital. It's like, okay, there it is. And it's hard because it seems hopeless. Krista's box had a massive wall. I was sure I was bankrupt. I was positive. But you know what? I got up the next morning. It's like, I'm going to go down fighting. Okay? I'm going to do everything I can. And magic happened. Okay, magic happened. And it wasn't even magic I brought on. But I think the universe, I think that God helps us at that point. It's like, okay, keep going. I've had that experience as a parent. Those are more important experiences. I don't know if I can go on. I just think I'm a failure. I'm failing at this. I don't know if I can succeed at this. But the stakes are too high. So I'm going to keep running until I die, until I fall over and there's nothing left. Okay, you know the song, remember the song, The Impossible Dream from Man of La Mancha? Just drive when your arms are too weary. Okay, this is beautiful. Okay, when you're that tired and you keep on going, these are the moments that we find greatness. That's where greatness always lies. It's always that point after the wall. So you have to expect the wall. It's going to hit me. It's going to hit you. Okay, fifth is that recognize the power of risk. Okay, when you're willing to say, okay, you've heard me talk about cross the Rubicon, right? Burn the boats. The Chinese had a saying, break the walks. When you get to that point, I mean, every culture has this archetype of when you're at that point, it's like, okay, failure's not an option. And that's what we did after the Christmas box. When it's like, we're going to fail, I went out and printed up t-shirts that said, failure is not an option with the logo on it. I still have one today for 25 years. Failure is not an option. To get to that point, to say that, it's like, I want to remind you, we can't put failure in our mindset because children will die. They're dying. They will die if we fail. So how much are you willing to strive? And the truth is, because I was carrying most of that weight, I had to spend my time recruiting people to succeed to keep me going. Okay. In the same way that quitters recruit people to quit, when you're succeeding, I had to recruit people to succeed because that put me on the line. Tom Hanks, when they were shooting Saving, is it Private Benjamin? No, Saving Private Ryan, Saving Private Ryan. So they go to get ready and they bring in this Marine drill sergeant who had been through World War II, and he was going to show them, and he's sitting there beating them up, and finally there's a mutiny. And they all quit. It's like, we're not going to go through this. He wanted them to understand. He wanted the actors to be prepared for what they're going through to make it real. You know who stood up and said, I'm not quitting? Tom Hanks. He goes, we want to get this right. We want to represent people who gave their lives, who were doing this for real, and we're chickening out. He goes, I'm not quitting. Well, the power is no one else quit. All of a sudden, they were ashamed of not quitting. I love that. I love that story about Tom Hanks. And as someone once said, I love it. He goes, look, damn it, then, at least fail at something. Okay. Sixth, the principle of dependability. Okay, I learned this in a really interesting way. I was working for a governor's race. We were running fifth, Norm Bangerter. And we won because we now have a highway named after him, Bangerter Highway. We're running with Norm Bangerter's campaign. I worked my way up until I was in charge of Salt Lake City, so the biggest county, and I'm this kid. And they brought in this guy to run the convention. The convention is a very important part of politics in Utah politics. That's how they choose the candidates that will face each other in the primary. This guy was batshit crazy. All right. He was a wildcat oil driller. They called him Wild Bill Stevenson. And they gave him to me because no one could stand him. And he was obnoxious. He loved to shout at people. He loved to shout at me. He was a former head of the Republican Party in Utah, chairman of the Republican Party. And he would come in and just yell at me. And so he goes, we're getting ready. We're getting ready for the convention. He goes, I want radios. If someone launches something, I want instant communication. Now, today you can go to Costco and buy walkie-talkies, right? I've got 8 of them right over here. You can buy them. They didn't have them back then. No one had them except for police. He goes, get me radios. So I call every store I can imagine. We didn't have the internet back then. All right. So I'm calling the stores and call the police departments like, you can't use our radios. So I go back to him and said, look, I tried, I can't get them. And he looked at him, and I was terrified to say it because I knew how he would respond probably. It was worse than I imagined. He goes, did I tell you to try, or did I tell you to get me radios? I want my radios. Are you going to be a failure, Evans, or are you going to do it? All right. I went back. I started calling. You know where I found the radios? I found them on a disaster site. Remember the Teton Dam broke? There was a group up there in Idaho who had a group of radios that was helping with the catastrophe. I don't even know how I found them. We got them. We got them for the convention. Never used them. They were never used. But after the convention was over and they let Bill go, he pulled me aside and he goes, Evans, I like you. He goes, I knew you had it in you. You're going places. He goes, I hope you learned never quit. I love it. And what happened is he goes, oh, by the way, your boss, I just got him fired. You're taking his job. Hate that son of a bitch. That's what he said. It's like, oh my gosh, sorry for the language. It's like, no, we need people, we need soldiers that do what they say they're going to do. It was a good lesson. It was very uncomfortable. I don't like being yelled at. And he ripped my head off over and over and over. But then he goes, I just wanted you to learn. Okay. You know, it's back to that, not on my watch, that perseverance. Okay. And Winston Churchill, I just read this amazing book about Winston Churchill, The Splendid and the Vile. And it was just amazing. But Churchill was not a quitter. Everyone else quit. I didn't realize everyone had quit. People thought Churchill was insane. It's like, we can't win. There's no way we can win this war. And Churchill said, we can and we will. And he completely drove it on the power of his will. The most powerful thing Churchill had is he made people believe in themselves. Yes, we can do this. It was amazing. There's no question that God was working through this man. No question. He was obnoxious. He was tenacious. He was the right man for the job at that time. He did not quit. And as he said, never, 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 never give up. And he just kept having setbacks, and people are trying to look at, do we replace him? We already threw out Neville Chamberlain. Do we throw out Churchill now? No, I'm not going. We are going to win. We'll fight on the seas and the oceans. We will defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We will never surrender. That was amazing. Okay, now, I think I've learned something since I wrote this, and this is really hard. When do you quit? You know, do you quit when there's nothing left? Do you quit? When do you quit? And I've talked to some really successful business people about this. When do you know to quit? Because we all had failures. And I think I figured this out. It took me 10 years. I think I figured it out. You never quit. Okay, you never quit on the destination, but you can quit on how you're trying to get there. There are things that you are trying to accomplish that will fail, that you don't know. We don't always know that what's going to work, especially when we're pioneers. When they take the first flight to the moon, they don't know it's going to go. They believe it will. They have every reason to believe. They wouldn't have done it if they didn't believe. But we don't know. And this is what I think I've figured out. You need to recognize the battles from the war. And there are times when you say, you know what, we've lost this battle, retreat. Okay, this battle, there's no way we're going to win it. We try. Okay, let's recover. Let's recover. George Washington had to retreat. But he continued to make his endeavors. And what happens is he started to wear away. Bam, bam, bam. My author ready program, I've already had failures. My book program already had failures. But that what they are, in the same way that Edison's mindset was, yeah, I know 10,000 ways to not make a light bulb. It was this mindset of, we're learning. Let the battles go, but never quit the war. Does that make sense? So be clear what the war is. Be clear what that vision is. Don't let it go. And if you know in your heart that God has given you this vision of something you're supposed to do in your life, don't give up. But you may have to give up on some battles. You are going to get bloodied sometimes. And you are going to get in battles that you can't win. That does happen. It's happened with me. In fact, I lose most of my battles, I think. But I'm doing pretty good on the war. And when you're committed to that, of what you want to accomplish, then you become extraordinary. And extraordinary isn't that big of a word. It just means you're not ordinary. And what does the ordinary means? It means you're cancel culture. You quit. But we're here to magnify. We're here with the 5 kingdoms. We have bigger callings. We're answering to our source. Our source is the ultimate warrior. Is the ultimate guru, is the ultimate coach, is the ultimate mentor. But will our coach let us get beaten up? Will he do a Wild Bill Stevenson? Yes. But who hasn't learned more from their failures, right? So, okay, so those are, again, the 6 things. Ownership of the objective. Okay, the buck stops here. To actually give up, how empowering to stop blaming other people. What a powerful thing. To stop blaming fate, to stop blaming God and saying, the buck stops with me, I own it. What a cool thing to be able to say, yeah, I stopped. I didn't succeed. It's powerful. Okay. Task, achievement, focused. I'm focused on accomplishing this. I'm focused. Anything can be accomplished, if you break it down in enough pieces. So I'm going to task achievement. There's usually not one big win. There's 1,000 little wins. All right. There's 1,000 little wins. Okay. Expect the obstacles. And there's 3 ways that obstacles will stop you. One is you just don't even try because there's an obstacle. Another is to quit at the obstacle. All right. And the best thing, and the third is to deny the obstacle. Admit there's obstacles. Yeah, this is hard. But my source and I, we can do it. I don't know how, but we can do it. We can MacGyver it. We'll figure it out. Okay, 4th, expect the wall. You're going to hit that moment of, I want to quit. You're going to hit the moments on your knees. And I tell you, I can tell you those moments that hit me. Twice, once on the floor. They're both 2 times. They were on concrete floors, on my knees, asking God if I could quit. One time was in a car asking if I was getting a divorce. It just feels wrong. But my marriage hurts too much. The 4th time was in a Pontiac Grand Prix after being kicked out of a bookstore and losing my only media and knowing the Christmas box was doomed. Okay. I know each of those moments, I can still feel it. It was so real. And I am so grateful for those moments because I am more proud of those moments than anything in my life. The moments when you sit there like Gandalf and say, you will not pass. Okay. That, to say, not on my watch, that is when you are noble and magnified and dignified. That is when you are something. I pray that all of you have that experience. As University President Chase Peterson said to me once, he goes, I almost failed out of college. I had a class I couldn't do. And he goes, And I learned how to study. Remember I told you about my daughter? She failed her first test in doctorate. She was, Dad, I'm a failure. I can't do it. I said, you weren't born to fail. God didn't open that door for you to fail. She's getting 90s on every test now. She got a perfect test, only one in her class. She's killing it. But she was ready to stop. And it's like, and Chase Peterson said to me, I would be disappointed if everyone at this university did not have one experience where they got to see their potential, where they realized that they could do far more than they imagined. I hope you have that experience. I pray you have it, because it's worth more than the ultimate success that you get from it. To know that you're that kind of soldier that doesn't leave their post, it's cool. And whether that means you're a single mother who never gave up on your kids, you are a freaking hero. Okay, that is the coolest thing ever. And what you start to realize is that sometimes we carry these crosses. They're not in public, they're in private. We suffer through these alone. What a gift for ourselves. I don't need other people to tell me what I went through. They couldn't possibly understand. I know where my heart was. I know at the moment when I could have gone either way, I chose to win. I chose to trust. I chose to have faith. I chose to endure. That's what I'm most proud of in my life. And to put my faith in my source and say, I don't think you led me out here as Moses did. You let us out here in the wilderness to kill us? You lost faith. No. But also remember, you will get bloodied. You will lose battles. And that does not, it is impossible for you to be a failure. Just in the same way, it is impossible for you to be a giraffe. Okay? It's not in your DNA. It's not relevant. But we can choose a higher course. We can choose to have these great challenges. I pray that all of you get to have a challenge like that this year. That you win, that you step through and say, not on my watch. That you say, no, I'm going to dream higher and I am not going to stop till I get it. And the person I am right now can't possibly succeed. Okay? Because you probably can't. But by the time you get there, you're not the same person. Rick Evans and Richard Paul Evans were very different people. Because Richard Paul Evans bled. It didn't just happen. So God bless you all. You succeed, be blue vacers. Give up the idea of excuses. Okay, take ownership and do it, whatever that is to you. Whatever it is, whatever realm, of parenthood, the really importance of parenthood, or your marriage or relationships. Those are some of the most difficult things we can do. Okay, to not give up on those and to come through. Because at the end, where you are in your first kingdom with your source, that is where glory resides. Not in the fifth kingdom. Okay, it's not in the fifth kingdom. It's not in the fourth kingdom. They'll give you awards. They give you awards to manipulate you. Look, we can give you awards. You would get to be your best-selling author. No, the real rewards come in those moments when you said, you know, I stood up. I stood up for a friend. I remember I walked out of a room after defending a friend, and he came up and he cried and he said, my own father wouldn't defend me. Someone had attacked him for being gay. He said, my own father wouldn't defend me. He goes, I know, Rick, I know that you don't, you know, you're a Christian and you aren't big on gay marriage. But when it all came down, you stood up in front of everyone. Everyone just shut up. Everyone sat around. You stood in front. So I want you to have those experiences, because when I die, that's what's going to be on my heart. And I love all of you, and I want you to have that. I can't give that to you any more than you could give it to me. It's between me and my maker. And it's like when I came home from my church mission, which was one of the most difficult things of my life, I remember looking at my mother and looking her in the face. They didn't tell me my mother was dying, that she weighed 70 pounds, that she got out of intensive care to see me on my mission. All I knew was I got off the plane, she wasn't there. Where's mom? Well, there's something we didn't tell you. And I remember when I saw her, and she looked like a starving child, Ethiopian child, her arms were like little sticks. But I remember I looked her in the eyes and I felt all the pain I had on my mission. And I said, Mom, I did my best. And I did it one day at a time. I'd look at my suitcases and say, okay, today's going to be another shitty day. But you know what? I'm going to do my best today. And one day at a time, one day was over. And I looked at her, I said, Mom, I did my best. Okay. No one can give that to you. No one can shame you into it. No one can glory you into that. But that's what our source wants us to be, because then we start to understand our source. And doesn't your second kingdom need someone like that in their lives? You know, I look at some of you. I'm looking at Michael Sheen, who has like stepped up to take control. He's down here with his son, blessing his life, and to see the change. He took control. He took control. He stepped and said, I'm taking this. I'm taking it back. Proud of you, Michael. Jay Walder, I love this man dearly, but I have seen him. I'm taking this. Yeah. It's like, you know what? I'm putting up with some hard things, but it doesn't change who he is other than nobility. So God bless you all. Michael.
I don't know if you're watching the chat roll, Rick, but you definitely hit home with this message. So many people are saying thank you and awesome, awesome, awesome. I know that it solved a few problems that I've been having in my own life. So thank you for your message tonight, Rick, and look forward to the next week. And everybody have an amazing week. We love you, and Magnification Nation in the house.
Thank you, Rick. That was beautiful.
Thanks, man.
Bye,
Love you
everyone.
all. Take care. Have a great week.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.